You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Summer is upon us. Sun is shining here in the Midwest and enjoying beautiful weather on some days. A little rain here and there too, but it's certainly starting to warm up. That means summer camp is right around the corner, and we're going to talk about what that looks like for some of our camps this year. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
Joining us today, David Vandercar, Executive Director for Camp Lakeview in Indiana. David, thanks so much for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me.
I should say welcome back. It wasn't that long ago. We just talked about the men's gathering, and it's already time to also talk about summer camp as well, as families are making plans for that. So let's talk more about the purpose of camp. I know we've talked in the past about Camp Lakeview and the numerous ways to enjoy the outdoors there, but what is at the heart of Camp Lakeview? What is the purpose of camp?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that we focus on at camp is just the community, the relationships that are built through people's times at camp. Our mission statement focuses on growth, inspiration, and recreation. Those are kind of the three things that we focus on when we're giving people a camp experience. And all of those things, growth, obviously with being drawn closer to Christ, being drawn into a deeper relationship with Him, allowing just those relationships to blossom and to be strengthened through somebody's time at camp. And that is where, when we talk about our ministry, it's really about our staff, the summer staff that we hire for the summer. That is who makes camp. And Andy, I know you were on a summer staff before. Sarah, I'm not sure if you had spent any time at summer camp, but those relationships that are built at camp last for a lifetime. I still have a relationship with counselors that were my counselors when I was a kid at camp, and it's just so neat to be able to see those relationships grow as the kids spend time at camp. And it goes beyond just the relationship between the campers and the counselors. It goes to the relationship between the family. We've talked a lot this year about the camp family and how amazing that family is. So I'd say if I had to sum it up all in one word, it would be just those connections, those relationships. So.
Mm-hmm. I was not a camp kid, and every time we talk about camp, I want to go be a camp kid, even though I'm not a kid anymore. So.
Well, just a quick little plug for one of our programs. If a lot of the camps have adult-child programs. So one of them we run, we call it the Tiny Tykes program, and it allows kindergarten through second graders to come to camp with an adult. And so, if you have a niece or a nephew, just grab a hold of them and come to camp, and you can at least get that experience.
That's really tempting, actually. But you talk about the building of relationships and how those really stay with people after their time at camp. How does this then serve the church at large and our congregations to have all of these kids attending camp over the summer?
For sure, yeah. So we really see ourselves as just a extension of the ministry that happens inside of a church. It's just a different way for it's another resource for the church at large to be able to continue to minister to their families. So our big thing, we try and figure out what way can we partner with our, the churches inside our district. How can we be a ministry support for them? What does that look like? And it looks like something different for every church. If a lot lot of the churches in our in Southern Indiana have schools associated with them, so we do a lot of outdoor education at camp and allow those kids to come out as part of that outdoor education and build those relationships. But there was an article that was done a while back about how camp is kind of the side door into the churches. Just the things that happen at camp. The relationships that are formed. It's an intentional environment that a lot of times is coming at kids a little bit different than maybe what a youth group does or a church does, and it's just a different way to connect them that they might not have been able to experience before. So.
And certainly the past year has presented its challenges. In what ways did the crises of 2020 impact Lakeview Ministries and the ways that you serve and your operations and outlook for the future?
Yeah. Oh man, it was. I think about last year at this time, and the pandemic had was kind of already in full swing. Things were shutting down, and we were looking at a decision that was looming about whether or not we were going to be able to even offer camp in summer 2020. And, we had already been, the facility's already been shut down to guest groups. We welcome at Lakeview over, close to 10,000 people to camp as part of a retreat group throughout the year. So we have all kinds of people coming out to camp, and that just kind of dried up. And then again, that decision about, whether or not we were going to be able to offer camp. And I tell you, it was, there was obviously a financial aspect of it, a stress to it. For our ministry at Lakeview, we were staring at an $800,000 loss of income. That's about 75% of our budget for the year, and so there was obviously a lot of financial stress on the leadership of the organization, but there was a lot of mental fatigue as well, because again, our whole purpose is to welcome people out to camp and to build those relationships and have that community, and all of that was pretty much taken from us. And our staff really went through a time, I really relate it to a time of mourning, because we're sitting there going, God's called us into this ministry, but yet we can't do it, in the way at least that we had always known it to be done. And so there was a lot of discussions about, okay, what can we do? What are we able to do to continue to serve our families and continue to do ministry? And then, how can we, what do we need to do to look to the future and figure out, okay, how are we going to make it through this? And amazing, looking back now, God did amazing things through last year, and it was just remarkable to see where we're at now, and I can continue to share those, but that is that. It was a stressful year, but it was also just amazing the way it all played out. So.
Mm-hmm. Tell us more about the creative ways you were able to get through, and some of the ways that God did bless the camp during all of this, and really provided opportunities for you to grow and expand.
Yeah. So. One of the first things that we started doing, of course, a lot of people went to offering online things, and it's hard when you think about an outdoor ministry, directing people to go to our Facebook page or YouTube channel to watch a video. But we did a lot of, we created a Lakeview TV channel, and we did campfire devotions that we offered, and we did, nature hikes around camp that we filmed, and, all kinds of stuff just to give kids the opportunity to, even if they couldn't be at camp to get a feeling of being outside, being at camp, being able to see see the place and be able to connect with our staff still. So that was one of the first things that we did. And then we ended up canceling the summer camp program, the overnight program, and we pivoted to planning a day camp program, because our local health department and everything allowed us to run a day camp program. And so that was something we had never done before as an organization. And so our staff worked really hard to throw that together. And it was really neat because first off, it gave kids at least an opportunity to get out to camp safely through the pandemic. And it also opened up some doors to where there were kids that had never been comfortable coming to camp and spending the night and being away from family, that they were excited about coming to camp just for the day. And it opened up so many doors there, where it was like, these kids that if summer would have happened as it normally does, probably wouldn't have been able to have that camp experience. And so that was a really neat kind of side effect of the circumstance. And then the financial side of it and everything, I talk about the camp family. We were very open and honest about where we were at as an organization and how the pandemic was affecting us. Like I said, that we were looking at that $800,000 loss, and we were able to kind of tighten the purse strings and really look at our expenses and cut a bunch of expenses. A lot of that was associated with the summer camp program when it comes to hiring summer staff and buying food for all the campers and all of that type of stuff. So we were able to cut out about $400,000 of expenses throughout the year. And then we were still left with that $400,000 loss of income that we really needed to make up for our other annual expenses, full-time staff and just upkeep on buildings, utilities throughout the winter months. And so we put out a plea. We called it the Weathering the Storm Initiative, and just put it out there to say, hey, we need this. We need this help. We need the camp family to step up and help us to get through this, because we don't want this pandemic to affect us long term. We didn't want it to cripple the ministry moving forward with the future plans that we had. And people stepped up. It was just remarkable. In a normal calendar year, we have between 250 and 350 donors that give to camp, and in 2020 we had over 1,100 donors that made contributions to camp. It was just amazing to see the community and the camp family step up to. It's humbling to know how much people value camp and wanted to make sure that the pandemic didn't affect us long term. So
we're talking with David Vandercar, Executive Director of Lakeview Ministries in Indiana. We have more to share, including plans for the coming year. You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
You're a miracle. You know that, right? A living, breathing, one-of-a-kind miracle. You were created to stand apart, to share your gifts in the service of others, to make an uncommon impact in a common world. And at Concordia University, it's our mission to help you do that, to live uncommon. To learn more about Concordia, go to cuw.edu.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
We're looking at camp for the summer. Today we're talking with David Vandercar, Executive Director for Lakeview Ministries in Indiana. David, how then are you? We've talked about how the challenges of the past year have impacted camp. How are you approaching plans for this summer?
Yeah, so we, in our state at least, we have been following what the health department guidelines and everything to look at what we can do to offer camp. And most of the studies and everything, there were camps that opened up last summer. The outdoors is one of the greatest values and benefits that we have to fight against COVID. So one of the things that we are designing our whole program around this year is really keeping kids outside, and changing kind of our whole meal service plan and everything to not utilize the indoor dining space, but utilize the exterior porches and picnic tables and everything to provide the best environment we can to keep kids safe while they're at camp. So we are excited and feel very confident with the plans that we're putting in place that we will be able to have summer camp and be able to give kids the experience that they're craving getting out to camp again this summer. So that is something we have all kinds of new plans and procedures and things we're working with our staff to make sure that we're able to continue to provide a camp experience for everyone. So,
What are some of the things that you're hearing from parents who are looking forward to this? Maybe some concerns that they have or expectations about what this summer will look like for their kids.
Yeah, so it's the challenge as an organization, as leadership, is that there's such a wide variety of opinions, right, on how just something as simple as mask usage, right? How that what our policy is for that. And so we have been working with our health departments to try and figure out the best plan to put in place there. The American Camping Association has released a field guide for camps as well to help guide them. And what we are trying to just get across to our parents is that all of the things that we are putting in place, they are being put in place so that we can ensure that we are able to continue to provide a camp experience. The tough part, and schools have kind of got into this as well, is when you start losing staff members, it gets difficult to continue to operate, right? And that's kind of where we're at as a camp as well. We've this summer have hired 50 college age staff to serve our facilities, and we've hired a couple extra staff. We've kind of called them our designated survivors. That if we have to quarantine staff members, then we will have some extra staff to bring in then. But it's really trying to make sure that we don't get in a situation where we have to quarantine a large majority of our staff, because then that gets into makes it to where it's very difficult for us to continue to operate then. So we're doing all of the things like cohort groups and limiting contact with people inside enclosed buildings and all of that type of stuff. But I think like I said, the biggest thing we want to get across to parents is that because there is a lot of different views on things, what we're trying to do is just make sure we're able to continue to offer a camp experience throughout the entire summer. So,
how might a summer outside be just what is needed, and what are the opportunities? What are the outdoor things available to do at Lakeview?
Right. Yeah. So, like I mentioned previously, with just from a COVID perspective, outdoors is where it's at. Right. I mean, that's like one of the biggest things that comes into play when it comes to the transmission and everything, or lack of transmission when it comes to being outside. So kids need outdoor space, especially thinking now about how many kids have this year all of us are experiencing increase in technology, right? Andy, I was talking to you before we started recording about how how much we have all learned about computers and microphones and headsets and Zoom calls and everything, right? and the kids have been right there with it, with online learning and e-learning and all of that stuff. So the opportunity to just disconnect from technology and get outside. And at Lakeview we have horses that they actually just showed up a couple weeks ago. We lease them for the summer and do horse rides and everything. And it is just, I know for myself, just being able to step away from the computer and walk outside and watch the horses grazing in the pasture has meant a lot more to me, in the last couple months as it's starting to warm up here than I think it ever has. So just giving kids that opportunity to get outside, I think is needed now more than it has been in the past.
So there are a number of things. So you mentioned horses. What other activities will kids hopefully have an opportunity to participate in at camp this summer?
Yeah, so we talked about Camp Lakeview. We actually run two separate facilities as Lakeview Ministries. We run Camp Lakeview and Lakeview Villages. Camp Lakeview is for the younger kids, so 2nd through 6th grade go to Camp Lakeview. And at Camp Lakeview we have the horse program. We have a zip line. We have a large, it's like 160-foot long slip and slide, basically a big water slide. We have a waterfront there at Lutheran Lake, and then of course the athletic field and a low ropes challenge course. And so those are all of our different activities we have at Camp Lakeview. And then Lakeview Villages is our camp for the older kids. So it is for 6th grade through 12th grade. And that program is built a little bit more around high adventure type stuff. So we have a climbing tower there. We have a high ropes course. We have the kids have the opportunity to go on a mountain biking trip. So we're located a couple miles away from the Hoosier National Forest. And so the kids get to take a mountain biking trip out into the forest if they choose to. And then at the waterfront at Lakeview Villages, we have a big rope swing and a water trampoline and one of those big inflatable blobs that you can launch people off of. So a lot of neat activities. And one thing I always like to preface with those activities is that they are fun activities, but those activities we have at camp are really just a means to an end, and that end is those activities is where relationships are built. And so when our staff is doing the zip line with kids, is doing the horseback riding, we're helping those kids to overcome some fears maybe that they have for that. And through all of those activities is what is allowing those relationships to continue to grow and those relationships to be focused on Christ our Savior, and for them to be, everybody in the camp environment to be drawn closer to Him. So I love talking about the activities because they are a lot of fun, but the activities is just, a way for us to continue to build those relationships. So.
Mm-hmm. You talk about mountain biking and I'm there.
I think Sarah just volunteered to come be a volunteer leader for the week for mountain biking. I'm pretty sure she was.
Yep.
We could work that out, Sarah. We need to get you to camp. And, we are also close to Brown County State Park. And Brown County State Park is... I have ridden some of the trails there, but I guess it is one of the destination locations in the Midwest for mountain biking.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah.
Yep.
So while you're here at camp, if you bring a niece or nephew out, you can do the Tiny Tykes program. Stick around another week, and we'll let you head up our mountain bike trip at Lakeview, and then you can sneak over to Brown County State Park for a few days.
Well, it looks like I'll be hosting the coffee hour by myself this summer. Thank you.
That's a good possibility. Let's talk about registration. How is registration coming along, and how can families register for this summer?
Yeah, registration is going pretty well. We are down some from years past. Part of that is, we've had to limit some capacity for COVID restrictions, and we have been able to, fill a lot of our weeks. Some of our weeks have waiting lists on them. So overall, though, we're pretty happy with where we're at. In terms of registering for this summer, if you go out to our website, lakeview.camp, is all of our registration is done online there. There's information there about what weeks have openings, all the information about the schedules and what grade levels work with which week and everything, and then all of our policies and everything we're putting in place for any questions that may come up there. And I also want to say that we are just one Lutheran camp across the country, and most of the camps that I have been in communication with have had a very similar story over the last 15 months in terms of what we've experienced here at Lakeview. And they are all opening up and planning on running this summer as well. And so if you aren't in the Midwest and looking at Lakeview or the other camps in the Midwest, if you go out to nloma.org, that's NLOMA, that's the National Lutheran Outdoor Ministry Association, there is about 26 other LCMS camps spread out across the country, and you can get to their websites and search kind of where they're located and everything through that nloma.org. And if you aren't close to southern Indiana and you want to find another camp that's close to where you live, that's a great place to go. And I'm sure you just go to their websites to find information on how to register for their programs. So.
David Vandercar, Executive Director, Lakeview Ministries in Southern Indiana. David, thank you so much for joining us on the Coffee Hour, helping us look forward to camp this summer. I guess I'm going to need a guest co-host for the summer because it sounds like Sarah wants to go to camp.
I've got an idea, Andy. Why don't you guys both come to camp, and then you can just do a remote broadcast from Lakeview Ministries. We can you can sit on the lake, maybe do it from a kayak or something, on a horseback. I got all kinds of ideas for remote broadcasts for you.
I hear you. Sounds like a great plan. David, thanks so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour. Check out lakeview.camp or nloma.org. You can find more information about other camps there as well. Thanks so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit kfuo.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@kfuo.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.